How you doing? Or should I say, g'day, mate? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to say? Any? Mine? Do you want me to do Bruce the Shark? Like, what do you want me to do? Anyway, my name is Joel. If you haven't seen me speak before, you're probably the lucky ones. But I'm going to have some fun tonight. I don't think we should just have an accidental service. I think we should have a purposeful service. Now, I've got to warn you, I've been up since, I actually don't know what time. I left Texas at 4 a.m. I went to bed at 1 a.m. And then they drove, and it felt like it was later because it was humid. Like my hair went, and so tonight I'm going to need your help, all right? You're going to have to help me preach. It's not just a me preach, it's a us preach, all right? So I need to let you know, I've got my sons with me. I've got Zion, who's 12, got Rome, who's 9, and Knox, who's 7, and my stunning wife with me, so I'm blessed. It's good to travel with them. I don't get to do it very often, so when I do, it's great. I'm going to pray and we'll get into this. Is that okay? Is that okay with you, Nicholas? How good is it when people have name tags on? They're like, is that a word from God? God, I thank you for who you are. I thank you so much that we are here safely. I thank you that this summer hasn't been accidental, but you've done some amazing things already. And as we go into this school year, you're about to speak to us that we can do something so significant in our school that we can see revival start. God, don't let these be accidental words that you've given to me, but let them be purposeful, as it says in Hebrews 4:12, that it's sharper than any two-edged sword, and it goes all the way down to who they are, cuts between soul and spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. If you have a Bible, you're probably not going to need it tonight because I kind of tell stories. Is that okay? Everyone's like, oh, wow. But there's this scripture in 1 Corinthians 13. You'll get there later. But I got married roughly about 15 years ago. But I met, she is beautiful. She's stunning. You're jealous. The girls are laughing behind you. But we went to this big event, right? And this big event was huge. And these guys had said to me, I've known them for a while, and went, hey, just letting you know that there's this girl that likes you. I'm like, ooh. If you ever tell a single guy that there's a girl who likes them, something happens. Like, especially at like 18, 19 years old, anything could happen, you know what I mean? And then someone had told her at the same time, hey, there's this guy who likes you. Yeah, now, they were playing us both at the same time, but I was like, when anyone was going to tell me that a girl liked me, I was like, and so I said, what's her number? Now, that's a little stupid. Like, asking for a girl's number that wasn't from the girl, that was offered from a friend, like, so I took the number, and I sat on the number, because you don't want to look too desperate, right? You don't want to look a little, like, if you call that day, you look desperate. There's just some dating advice. It's the end of summer, so hopefully you've already had your summer moments, and I sat on it for a few days, and then Monday came, and I went, now, I'm not the best at talking to girls, and never was great at it. Anyone else like me that's a little, yeah. Just so you know, girls, if they do speak to you with a stutter, it's not that they're scared, it's that they're very scared and they really like you. But so, and next, you know, I gave it a few more minutes and picked it up and because like that energy, it was a little bit too much for me. And so I'm like, what do I do with this? And finally, can anyone else hear that music? I feel like I've got like ambience music ready to go behind me. Like I feel like I should just do the altar call right now and walk off. Can you hear that? Just checking. It's not just me with like airplane ears, you know. But and next, you know, so I called again. Boop, 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 boop. Before I had a chance to hang up, hello? I'm like, oh, no. Why when you speak to a girl, it's like you go to like year 9 boy. Hi, my name's Joel. Like best example of a human possible. Hi. Any girls, no boys with that sort of voice? Hi. There you go. Sorry, Hayden, my bad. Everyone's up here pointing at the poor guy. We'll have an altar call later for you. And I said, hi, my name's Joel. And she said, hi, my name's River. I went, nice to meet you, River. I've heard so much about you. And as we're having this short but long conversation, like, what do you say on a phone call to a girl you've never met, you've kind of seen somewhere, and you know that she was kind of cute according to your eyesight. And so we had this conversation and went, hey, you know what? I lived 2 hours away from her, and I went, maybe one time we could go out. And I'm like, this will be like a few months, right? Like I was preparing myself to save some money, to take her on a date. And she goes, well, I'm out your way on Friday. Glory be to God. What do you mean you're in my area Friday? She goes, well, it just so happens my grandparents live just around where you, oh my, oh. And I'm like, okay, well, how about we go to a movie on Friday? Time out, boys, just a little dating advice. If you want to go on a date and you don't know whether you like them and you don't know whether you're going to talk real well, take them to a movie because you don't have to talk. Smart, right? Yeah, see? Hayden's over here going, I don't have to use my voice. Hi. Sorry, Hayden, my bad. And so she said, okay, and so that day, the Friday came, and I was so excited. It was my first ever blind date and my last. And so she came up her driveway, and I met her in a park, and got her in and went to the movies. And the whole time through the movie, we kind of chatted the whole way through. Then all of a sudden, I was like, I really don't want this date to end. We should go on an extended date. And every girl likes long walks on the beach. And I live near the beach, so I figured, well, let's go for a long walk on the beach. So we went for a long walk on the beach. 3 hours later, we finally got to a point where we had some food. We seen a movie. We walked on the beach. I have done everything I could to sign, seal, deliver this thing. You know what I mean, boys? And guess what? 15 or so years later, let me tell you, that reckless, silly phone call has turned into reckless, stupid love for a woman. 15 years, like, haven't been a day apart. And you're like, well, that's kind of crazy. What's that got to do with tonight? Nothing. It's just that she's in the room and I want to tell the story. I'm joking. It has got a lot to do with tonight. And she's in the room. It's amazing. But reckless love is my title for tonight. In America, you're seeing this song, Reckless Love, but I've been traveling and a whole lot of people tell me that the word reckless in America is kind of, does it explain our God real well? Or are we wrong by saying the word reckless? Is it actually, I've had theologians tell me that it's super wrong. And I want to let you know tonight that I've come to the conclusion after having chats with a recklessly loving God that it's actually okay to say that he's recklessly in love with you. It's okay that you're going to tell friends that he's recklessly in love with them. Let me go to the scripture. It says this in 1 Corinthians. If I give everything I own to the poor and even go to the stake to be burned as a martyr, but I don't love, I've gotten nowhere. So no matter what I say, what I believe, and what I do, I am bankrupt without love. Love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut, doesn't have a swelled head, doesn't force itself on others, doesn't force itself on others. Love isn't always me first, doesn't fly off the handle, doesn't keep score of the sins of others, doesn't revel when others are groveling. It takes pleasure in the flowering of truth, puts up with anything, trusts God always. Always looks for the best, never looks back, but keeps going to the end. Love never dies. Inspired speech will be over someday. Praying in tongues will end. Understanding will reach its limits. We know only a portion of the truth, and what we say about God is always incomplete. But when the complete arrives, our incompletes will be cancelled. Tonight I want to ask you, what kind of love do you have? Going into this school year, what kind of love are you filled with? What kind of love are you taking into your school? What kind of love do you have for this God who so recklessly loves us? Because it's so easy to go about our summer and say, oh man, I've had the best summer ever. But what about when you get back to school? What kind of love are you showing? And you may have had an amazing camp season. You may have had some amazing moments in missions, but where is God in it all? Or is it just moments of a summer? I want to ask the question, is he really recklessly in love with you? And how do we know? There's this scripture in Luke 15. It's the story of the prodigal son. And we all know the story. It's the story where the son comes to the father and says, hey, Dad, give me my inheritance. And the father goes off to his safe and he puts in his PIN code, gets out his money and says, here you go, here's your inheritance, here's $1 million. And the son goes, whoo, didn't realize it's worth that much. Puts it in his little satchel, whatever, I don't know, how do you carry it? Anyway, my head's like, how do you carry $1 million? But he starts walking off from home. Now let me give you a little bit of understanding on this. When a Jewish son asked for his inheritance early, there was a protocol that they had to do. What they would need to do is the father would then go and employ a whole lot of wailers, they called them. Not like, because they were, anyway. They employed women who were professional mourners. That they would follow out the young, they were employed for funerals and they were there to make sure that there was a moment of cutting off of the son from the father. And so he would have had a funeral procession following him as he walked out of town, saying he is no longer welcome back to community. He's no longer welcome back to his family. He no longer has their last name. He is now completely separated. See, Jewish history says that the young man now is dead to his family. And you may go, but Joel, this is all, we know what happens, it's great. Yeah, it is great, but do you understand that he had to change some things and things had to happen? Reckless love had to take place. Tonight, what kind of love do you have? What kind of recklessness have you sought after to go after God this year? How are you going to recklessly love someone at school this year? How are you going to recklessly love God? Because I believe he so recklessly loves you, it's irrational, it's stupid, it's undeserved, and he loves you anyway. See, his love is so after you. How do I know? Because when I start to read the scripture of this story, I get so caught up in the father's response. The father is an interesting person because this story is always it's the prodigal son, right? We know it as the prodigal son, not the prodigal father. We know it as the prodigal son. And here he is, he's off spending his money on wild living. We would say right now he's spending it at Disney World. No? Okay. Because that's good spending. He's spending it on parties, he's spending it on crazy living. That would suggest that he was probably spending on prostitution and the likes. He's now run out of all his cash and he's eating with the pigs. There is no worse thing for a Jewish man than to be entertaining pigs. Because pigs were unclean. Pigs were disgusting. They rolled in mud, and here he is sitting with the pigs, eating their pods. How long does it take to spend $1 million? How long does it take to get to his very end? Maybe it was 3, 4 years, 5 years. See, tonight I want to let you, if you want to take points, I want to let you know, number one is reckless love isn't careless love. See, we look at this word, reckless and abandoned driving, is kind of what people have always said, oh, well, that word is so not, because we put these two things that it's careless. Can I suggest that recklessness in the biblical sense isn't carelessness? In fact, careless and reckless aren't synonymous. When they are made synonyms, reckless changes from a love that's willing to do what seems irrational into a love that's uncalculated and naive. Deity dying for humanity, or perfection dying for flawed. Think about this Jewish father. This Jewish father is at home having to go about his everyday normal. He's just doing his thing. But every day he still remembers his son who's dead. Where is he? What's he doing? Where is he at right now? Is he coming home? Because it says he saw him a far way off. How far is the far way off? How far is that? Because did he have a clear view of the entry into the community? Had he stationed himself perfectly just in case his son would come home? How did it happen? See, I believe the father was so in love with his son, even though he was dead, he didn't stop loving him. Even though he was dead, even though he was separated, even though he had squandered everything, even though he was disgustingly dirty, he didn't stop loving him. See, everyone was saying, man, you're being reckless, you're being careless, this is silly love. And he's like, man, but that's my son. He had two sons. We all know the story. The older son, he was in the house. He must have seen his dad every day look for the other son. He saw him, and the son's like, man, he doesn't love me. The whole time, that love was right there for him, but also his love. Because see, the father doesn't play favorites. He loves you so much so that he is totally and utterly careful about his love for you, not careless. See, have a look at this picture. Jewish fathers had to be staid, upright, and in charge. They couldn't actually ever show emotion. Have you ever seen a Jewish family? They usually have the little hats and the little ringlets down the side, and out the front will be dad, the rest will follow. Jewish custom says that the father, everyone was in submission to the father, so he was the head of the household, so he'd walk in front of the family. He was always controlled and always upright. He had his little long, in the day would have a long skirt on. And this one day, on the top of the crest, he sees this image of a son that looks a little bit like the one that left. But right now, he's probably emancipated. He's quite thin. He's lost all the weight he probably went left with. And all of a sudden, the father goes, if I squint, that looks like him. Have you ever had a moment where you see something you really want? And you get really excited and start to get a little bit edgy. And the father's pacing back and forth like, I think that's my son. I think it's him. And the father starts to go and starts to walk towards the entry of the community. And as he starts to see him, he sees everyone's faces because this son is dead. He's now coming home. And everyone in the community starts to look at the dead son. And the father, to get the eyes off of the son, lifts up his skirt. And you know what? It was so wrong of him to show his legs. They would never have done this, but he did everything to take the view off of the son. Tonight, where have you found that you've stuffed up this summer? Where have you found that you've missed the mark this summer? Where have you said that I can't go back to God this summer? Because let me tell you, God has already taken the pain and the shame, so you don't have to whip yourself and pay yourself prices, right? You don't have to anymore. He's done over and above. Why? Because he lifted up his skirt and said, look at me. And all of a sudden, instead of being controlled, staid and upright, he starts to look like, I don't know, a dog on just racing after this little guy. See, I picture this moment. What's going through the son's head? Have you ever had your dad run at you? Yeah. What if your dad's coming after you? What are you thinking? He's trying to work out, I'm going to say this. His dad's coming. I'm in trouble now? Like, like you start to breathe and want to vomit because your dad's going to be like, I'm in trouble now. I've really blown it. And the father completely out of control. And next you know, it's like Superman hitting somebody. And the son is like, poof. The father is laid out and kissing him. The son is now laying underneath his father and goes, I just want to serve in your house. And he goes, get the ring, get the robe, get the shoes. I left the ring on the table just beside the door. Get the robe. It's been ready for him since he left. Go and get. And so the servant goes and gets it all. And he's hugging and kissing his son because he's now welcoming him back to society. It doesn't matter where he's been or what he's done. The father recklessly, carefully hounded his son. So we sing this song, there's no shadow he won't light up, no wall he won't tear down. Let me tell you, there is nothing he will not do for you. See him. He gets the ring and says, man, the ring was a signet ring. It meant that he could sign on the family's behalf. I mean, the kid's just spent $1 million. He's like, I don't know about you. If my sons took my credit card and spent all my money, I don't know if I would be as careful and considerate and as compassionate as this father. In fact, I think I would probably use some choice words. I think I may be a little loud and abrasive. In fact, I'd probably be downright angry. But this father has looked for this day for however long for his son to return. And the ring was so we could sign. The robe said he's welcome back into family because they had family robes. And the shoes were saying that you don't have to be a servant in my house. You are esteemed. Do you understand that every one of you, when you say yes to Jesus, he's going to give you a ring, a robe, and shoes. He's going to say you can do business on my behalf. You're part of the family, and you're an esteemed young man or woman. It doesn't matter where you've been or what you've done. It doesn't matter your past. See, number 2 is reckless love is costly love. We have this picture of Jesus on a cross, right? And I've worked out that that's not really the case. He did go to the cross, but it wasn't pretty. It's not just like, have you ever been to a Catholic church and seen the picture of Jesus with the perfect blood drop and the little nappy? And it's just one drop of blood out of his side. Have you ever seen that picture, or is it just me? Just checking. They've seen that in Florida? Okay. Because you're quiet. I don't know whether you need subtitles or... Have you ever thought about the cross? And I'm going to do this before you go back to school because I really want you to be saved. It didn't look like that. It didn't look like that. Can I tell you what? Did you know the Romans created the crucifix to be the perfect way of capital punishment? Not only was it the perfect way of capital punishment, the word excruciating comes from the word crucifix. Romans were the most professional killers of people. That's one thing to write home about. I'm a professional killer. They hurt when I do it. And here is this one day, and we all know the story, there's Barabbas and Jesus. And they go, who do you say? Because there's one day in Jewish custom they could release. And so that day was this day. How perfect was it for that to be the day when Jesus was there? And they say, we choose Jesus. They take him to the scourging block. And maybe you've seen the Passion of the Christ, but there's this, it looks like a marble rock. And on the marble rock had 2 handcuffs on it with chains. And they would strip the man naked. He didn't have the little nappy. Completely naked. He had to be naked so he'd be completely shamed in front of his community. Here he is, they stretch him out. His back had to be completely stretched out so they would see the complete torso of the man. It says Jesus took 39 and 1 lashings. Now, it's not just like an ordinary, done. They had a thing called a cat of nine tails. The cat of nine tails, if you're in year 6, you can close your ears, I don't mind. But it was a professional hurting tool. On it had glass shards, rocks, and at the end of it was a hook, and that hook was perfectly made like a fishing hook, just bigger. As it came down, have you ever been fishing, by the way? You're from Florida, you love fishing, gators. And there's this big lead sinker. It would come down, slap the skin. As it slapped the skin, the perfect hook would come down behind that, where the flesh is now being tenderized and soft, and it would... Yeah, welcome to Youth Year 6. Here is Jesus, beaten for your iniquities, bruised for your transgressions. By his stripes you are healed. We all know these scriptures. But do you understand that it was costly? Seeing Jesus is now completely bared on the back, and they get this scarlet robe, a thin robe. Have you ever hurt yourself really badly and skins come off on your leg, and then you've gone about your day and the material's dried to your pants, or your... Have you ever had that moment where it's dried to you and you're like, oh, that's going to hurt later on? And then you get home and you're like, just going to... But your mums are always nice. Mums are the ones that say, just get it done. They don't want to mess around. They've got something to cook, they've got something to do, they've got something, just get rid of it. And then, you've all been there. Here's Jesus with his thin scarlet robe. They pushed it onto his back. And they sent him into the prison that night, and it says they beat him, pulled out his beard. The next morning, they pull out a cross that was still wet from someone else's death. It still stunk from some other man. And you're all sitting there going, man. And here it is. I don't know. That cross is literally our sin. You name some problem, some shame, some pain, some guilt. That's what the cross represents. And they then get the scarlet robe and reopen every wound. Here is Jesus. They lay him on a cross. He's bloodied and beaten. And here is our Jesus. See, reckless love is costly love. Can I tell you the most amazing thing? That Jesus laid on that cross with every one of us in mind. He didn't come and go, just because. You know what? In fact, he laid in that cross and went, I know Hayden. I know Joshua. I know what they're going to do. I know where they've been. I know what they've been. And I'm going to lay on this cross anyway. Nails go in. They put him up. And see, reckless love is costly love. We have this word in the world of theology that's called penal substitutionary atonement. And you'll learn that one day. Or actually, right now you're going to learn it. Penal means penalty. Substitutionary means he took your place. Atonement means because he's done those two things, you can be one with God. My question is tonight, if it wasn't reckless, why did he do it? Because he took a cross he didn't deserve, took a grave made for Joseph, and he rose again. None of that makes sense. It's irrational. It's crazy. You go and try and tell someone any time in history that this is what Jesus did for you. They're like, you are crazy. Yeah, but if you just met Jesus, you would meet the craziest type of love ever. And guess what? It wasn't careless because he thought of you. He thought of me. It wasn't accidental. It wasn't uncalculated. It was completely calculated. timings were perfect in history for this to happen. See, I think this is God completely writing the story, and he's like, I'm going to make this generation think it was completely reckless. See, Isaiah 55 says this: for his ways are higher than our ways. My thoughts are nothing like your thoughts, says the Lord. My ways are far beyond anything you could imagine. For just as the heavens are higher than the earth, so far are my ways and my thoughts higher than yours. Tonight, I want to ask you the question, how do you love? What's it look like? I don't think we can ever get anywhere close to Jesus or how God wrote the story. But do you realize that your school deserves this type of love? This year, the person that you think's the worst of the worst, they deserve this love. When you get back to school tomorrow, wow, I'm sorry. There's going to be someone who doesn't think they fit, who hasn't had the best summer, who hasn't had the experiences you've had this summer, and they're going to need that love. Will you be the sort of person who will give it? Don't try and calculate it in your brain and work it all out. Because if you start to try and work it all out, you've missed the whole point. See, this father kissing a son that stinks like pigs. Number 3, reckless love requires a decision. So you have to understand, reckless love isn't careless love. Reckless love is costly love. And thirdly, reckless love requires a decision. How do you respond when you meet Jesus? Can I tell you how let me tell you one more story. Can I tell you a story? I feel like family. It's okay, all right? So I thought I should ask this girl to marry me. And I came up with this amazing idea that I thought would be phenomenal. I went and bought this ring, and it had a beautiful wooden box. I went and bought myself a pink shirt. I don't know why. And so I wrote all these love letters. And I wrote love letters that said, this has been the best 9 months of my life. I can't wait for the next 9 months. And I went to all these special spots of where we had been through our dating time. There was one spot that we had spent time separately at, and she would sit at and pray to God. And at other times where we had no idea we even knew it, we'd sit in the same place and pray. So I sent her there with her best friend, and she turned up too early, and I just finished putting the letter in place, and I put some sprinkling of rose petals on. And she got there, I heard them coming, so I jumped off the edge and sat underneath and heard her and her friend laughing as they read the letter. And then I sped off to the next place, and they got another letter, and it sent them to lunch at this beautiful restaurant. Then there was another place they had to go, and another place, and then finally there was this beach called Palm Beach in Sydney. It's spectacular. It is the most stunning beach. Let me tell you, it's the north end. There's this little maze area where you can go through the brush, the greenery, whatever they call it in America. If you go through it right, there is a little laneway and it goes down onto the sand. And it's the longest part of the beach, and it goes all the way down, and it's perfect. That day the sun was setting, and was just one little white boat on the ocean. I was like, perfect, you know what I mean? I couldn't have organized it any better. So I got this picnic rug. I put a picnic rug down. I got some tea light candles, and we did tea light candles coming down. And I practiced what I would say. I think you're the most amazing woman. You've got so much potential. I've got so much potential. We should put that potential. I had every bit. I didn't even get it out because she walked down, and here I am so nervous because I'm going to ask her to marry me. She walks down, and it's better when I'm on up. She gets there, and like, I was 22. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. She gets down and smiled and said, had a little chat, and all of a sudden, I don't know which knee, this one. Getting old, people. And I started telling her about our lives and how I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. And I pulled out and whenever a girl sees that kind of box, they're like, I said, will you marry me? See, I met her on a blind date 9 months earlier. That's kind of silly, right? Like, it's kind of crazy. Kind of reckless, if you could put it like that. And I said, hey, will you marry me? I was waiting for a yes. I didn't get a yes. I got a and she started to cry. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? Did I not say something? Will you marry me? Because if someone ever asks you, you say yes. Or no, if you don't want to. I mean, and so I'm living in limbo for a few minutes. And I'm like, so is that a yes? It's a really stupid example. I'm trying to tell you tonight that Jesus, in his great love, has done everything to a point of saying, do you love me? Because here I am, bared out in all my nakedness, taking all my pain, taking all the shame, so you no longer have to have that. Do you love me? She said yes. See, and all it takes tonight is one simple word to God that can change your past, your present, and your future. And it's straight yes. Do you love him? Yes. Will you serve me? Yes. Will you go to some of the worst this year in your school? Yes. Will you love people recklessly this year? Yes. Will you do what is not required but required? Yes or no? If it's a yes, let me tell you, when you say yes to Jesus, it's the most stunning love. Because when he laid on that cross, every one of you was in mind. He took a miserable death so you could know life and life to the full. He took a miserable death so you don't have to pay for your sin any longer. He wants to make sure that you know that no matter what you've done, no matter your sin, it no longer has to separate you. He's done it so you can know complete and wholeness in him. See, and if you can say, Joel, I know that Jesus, that's awesome. But if you're in here and go, Joel, if I was honest, I've kind of lived a little bit like that prodigal son. I'm kind of squandered my life a little, and I'm in this point of, I just don't know. Can I ask you to come to your senses tonight, turn around, get up, and come home? If you're here and go, man, Joel, if honest truth is this summer's been like crazy, you're in the right place tonight. Can I get you to close your eyes and bow your heads just for a moment?